If you are a creator, a leader, an artist, a visionary on the edge of your next evolution, the tension that you are carrying may not be the crisis you think it is. You're not falling apart, nothing has gone wrong, everything you've built is still standing and you know it. But when it comes to your own evolution, personally or professionally, the next era of what you're here to build, something underneath the motion just isn't moving. Have you ever felt that? So you're doing the work, you're showing up, you're producing, and somewhere in all of that, there's a glitch. It's not loud enough to stop you. It's just present enough that you can't ignore it anymore. And you've been waiting for it to announce itself as a real freaking problem, and it hasn't. And so you keep moving. Well, that glitch has a name. Think of it the way that you would hear a piece of music. It's not the notes that just tell you something's off. It can be the space in between them, or the rhythm, the place where a phrase almost resolves but it doesn't quite. And you can feel something's off in a piece of music before you can name it. That's the glitch. And once you've trained that ear, whether in music, in a body, in business, you can't unhear it, because it's not pointing to a crisis. It's pointing to a tuning problem. I'm going to name this as trajectory decisions. When it comes to your trajectory, the direction your life and vision is moving, not all decisions are the same. Not all decisions carry the same weight. So some of what you're doing is just deciding and doing, and it's maintenance, it's real, it's necessary, it's what keeps what you've built alive. But at some point, maintenance has a ceiling. It was designed to. It doesn't build, maintenance holds. So a trajectory decision is something else. And it's oddly paradoxical, because in a trajectory decision, the tension you feel in the body is more, but the decision tends to be smaller than you think, quieter than you expect. And so it doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It carries a kind of latent sleeping power that maintenance never will. So here's the filter. Does making this decision open something that staying still kept closed? That's it. That's the question. So the first piece is you have to become aware of what tension with carrying unmade decisions really feels like, not just in the mind, but actually in the body. And then you got to dump all those decisions out, so to speak, and you can sort the ones that are just regular open loops you can just close, right? Decide, do, delegate or drop it, so to speak. But on trajectory decisions, these are the decisions that determine direction. Are you stacking in the same way as your vision is pulling you forward, right? Or are those decisions adjusting full trajectory? So the glitch that you're feeling is often that a trajectory decision that keeps appearing at the edge of your awareness, waiting for you to see it and stop treating it like it's too small to matter. So I'll get specific. Many times the reason that you don't spot or take trajectory steps, it's not generic, and it's not lack of motivation, and it's not fear, and it's not that you don't know what to do. It's that your system has a particular way of maintaining and looking busy while bypassing the actual steps needed. And it looks different depending on how you're wired. If you are a warrior, when you feel tension, you force. So you're just going to keep applying pressure. You'll outwork the discomfort, and sometimes that works. But not always, because in this case, a trajectory action or decision might not need force. It might need accuracy or sensitivity. So you can't always be moving hard in exactly the wrong direction and feel like you're making progress. So in that case, for the warrior skin, the prescription isn't more effort, it's less, but aimed better. Now, not everybody's the same. By the way, pause, hard stop. If you don't know your skin yet, your somatic skin, these are not personality types, although they can influence personality. They are somatic patterning. I just mentioned the warrior. I'm going to go into the other three. If you haven't taken the Somatic Skins Quiz, what are you waiting for? Go down to the description. It's free. It takes a few minutes, and it will make everything so much more personal and practical. So, okay, let's continue. If you're a shapeshifter, you innovate. So you'll find a better angle, a new approach, a more elegant solution, and that intelligence is real. But sometimes the pivot that feels so good, it's actually avoidance. And so in that case, the trajectory action, it doesn't need a new form or direction. It needs you to hold steady on the direction you have long enough for it to start to compound. Potency in this case lives in staying, not pivoting. Now, if you are a sage, you map. You think it through, you filter correctly, you wait for the strategy to feel sound and make sense. And your discernment is genuinely valuable. But the plan, in some cases, may never be complete enough to guarantee the outcome. And so for you, you might actually find that you hold trajectory decisions way longer than you ought to and sort of dance on that threshold of think and act, and participate. So the trajectory step requires contact with reality and feeling before clarity. So choose before you're ready. Let the strategy follow the movement, not precede it. Now, if you are an asset, you feel into it. You attune. You go deeper into the sensation, and your sensitivity is not the problem. But sensation without discernment or direction, it stalls. And you don't need more feeling in that case. You don't need more reflection. You need a chosen direction. You let what you're already sensing organize around a movement. If you don't know your primary orientation, remember that's the place to start. And link is in the description. Here's what makes navigating the decision tension corridor harder than it should be. When the glitch shows up, when the tension starts building, that's a version of pressure, and your body starts to send a signal. That's all it is. Sensation, which is just information. The body pointing to something that wants to move or continue or change. But the mind, dang it just doesn't leave it there. The mind narrates, so it builds a story on top of the sensation. And that story usually sounds something like, oh, it shouldn't be this hard. I shouldn't be here at this place in my career, given all that I've done. I already did this. I'm going backward. I'm so far behind. All the little stories. That's not a feeling. Those are not sensations. That's an emotion, which is actually intellectual. It's the story your mind has constructed about what that sensation means. And then what it says about you, and then what it says about your path, and then whether or not you're making the right choices. And once the story is running, you're no longer dealing with your actual trajectory in purity. You're dealing with a verdict, positive or negative, The sensation was just a signal. The story turned it into evidence and a bunch of unnecessary noise. And that's the distinction that changes everything. Feelings move through. Emotions left unexamined, they start to loop. And the loop is what makes a small step feel like a crisis. This is also why we work distinctly from traditional coaching, where it's very much based on talking, reflecting, examining, ruminating, because sometimes you don't need more looping in the story. That is the densest level to solve a problem or find a new opportunity. It's better to work at the level of the body and then allow the body to direct movement. So then there's this, right? For some of you, maybe the trajectory step isn't small. It's just weighted because you've already built things. you have already paid the cost. You've already operated at a level that makes this particular next step, whatever it is, it feels maybe beneath you or worse, like evidence that you've lost ground or you are a has-been. Maybe you're reclaiming territory that you used to own, inhabit, embody. And the humiliation of that, I mean, it isn't nothing. It's felt, it's real. Maybe you've changed directions after years of sacrifice to get to where you are, and now the mind keeps pulling you back toward everything that it costs you to get here. And the grief of letting go of what has been, well, that's real. And the fear of what you're moving forward into, well, that's real. And I'm not saying real in story, that's nonsense. I'm saying real in felt sensation. Maybe you're a person who moves really fast, who has always moved really fast, and somewhere along the way, you outpaced your own foundation. And now the work is unglamorous, quiet, no audience, no feedback loop, no visible momentum, just backfill, going back to the foundations and the thankless, unsexy architecture of what was needed. Anyways, all of this, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes by Seneca, which he said simply, "We are tormented alike by what is past and what is to come. No one confines his unhappiness to the present." The mind pulls in both directions simultaneously, the feared future and the resented or grieved past. And the actual trajectory step exists in here, now, only now. The body can only act in the present from the ground it stands. The story that has you everywhere except where the step lives, well, that's what's keeping the tension real. And it's worth it to note when I'm talking about orienting to the present moment with presence, I don't mean presence in just the way that word gets used now as stillness or retreat or doing less. That's not what this is. Presence is contact. It's the body oriented toward something real here now, without the noise of what was and what might be, drowning out what's actually alive and happening. The trajectory step requires contact with that kind of presence, not calmness, contact. So here's what's true. The glitch, it's not a verdict on whether or not something is right or will work. It's signal. There is a step that's been waiting for you, the one that feels too small or too late or too beneath what you've built. And that step is not evidence that you've shrunk or you are playing small or you're on the wrong path. Maybe those things are true, right? But really, the next step in trajectory is evidence that you have found and you're staying devoted to the thread pulling you forward into the vision that you want. So the tension that you've been carrying, that isn't telling you that something's wrong. It's telling you that something is ready. That's not a crisis. That is trajectory. That's what I got for you today. Thanks for sticking with me this long. If something in here landed, if you recognized yourself somewhere in this video and where you are in your life and career, well, that recognition is worth something. So don't let the mind turn it into another thing to ponder and think about. The prestige is where this work gets applied in real ways that matter to you. So it's a training environment built for people who are already capable, who don't need motivation that's created for them, who can receive challenges with curiosity and know how to take what they learn and then move with it. We work with the body, not around it. We build a kind of range that lets you meet what's next without losing yourself or losing what you've built. So if you're feeling that tension point between where you've been and where you're going and where you're orienting now, You might be a creator, an artist, an entrepreneur on the edge of your own personal and professional evolution. And if that's the case, this is the container. The Prestige is the container for that. The link is in the description for us to connect. Come find out if it's the right fit.